When Ravi first saw the house on the hill, it was already dying. The walls were cracked, the paint peeling off like old skin, and the windows looked like empty eyes. Yet something about it drew him in, a quiet pull, a whisper that said, "Come closer." He had just moved to the countryside for work, tired of city noise and crowds. The rent was cheap, and the owner, an old man with trembling hands, had almost begged him to take it. "There's one rule," the man had said, his voice weak. "Don't go into the last room at the end of the hall." Ravi had laughed at that. He didn't believe in ghosts. He thought the man was just superstitious. The first few nights were peaceful. The wind moved through the trees, and the crickets sang outside. But on the fourth night, something changed. Around midnight, he woke up to a faint sound. A tap, 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 coming from the hallway. It was steady, slow, almost like someone knocking on wood. Ravi got out of bed and looked out the door. The corridor was empty, dark except for the thin line of moonlight from a window. The tapping stopped. He waited a minute, then went back to bed. Just as his eyes began to close, he heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. This time it was closer. The next morning he checked every corner of the house. The windows, the floorboards, even the ceiling. Nothing. Everything looked normal, though he noticed the door at the end of the hall now stood slightly open. He could have sworn it had been locked before. That night, the tapping didn't come. Instead, he woke up to whispers. Soft, broken voices, like someone speaking from far away. He couldn't understand the words, but they sounded sad. Crying, maybe. When he turned on the light, the sound stopped. The air was cold enough to make his breath visible. He told himself it was just the wind. On the seventh night, the whispers grew louder. They came from behind that door, the one at the end of the hall. Ravi stood there listening. It sounded like a woman whispering his name. "Ravi, kiss, please." His heart pounded. The handle of the door was shaking slightly as if something behind it was trying to turn it. He reached out, his fingers trembling, then pulled back. He ran back to his room and shut the door. The next morning he packed his bags. He didn't want to stay anymore. But when he stepped outside, his car wouldn't start. No matter what he did, the engine refused to turn over. His phone showed no signal. The world around him was silent. No birds, no wind, just silence. He decided to leave on foot. But as he walked down the path away from the house, he realized the road looped back on itself. No matter how far he went, he always ended up standing in front of the house again. By evening, exhausted and terrified, Ravi stumbled back inside. He locked all the doors, lit a candle, and sat near the fireplace. The flame flickered wildly, though there was no breeze. Then, from behind him, a soft voice spoke. "You shouldn't have come back." He turned around slowly. At the edge of the hallway stood a woman in a faded white sari. Her hair hung over her face, wet as though she'd come in from rain that wasn't there. Her feet were bare and black with dirt. Ravi couldn't move. The woman tilted her head, and in a voice that was both gentle and broken, she whispered, "He promised he wouldn't open the door." Then she vanished. The candle went out. The house was pitch black. Ravi grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and ran to the door at the end of the hall. It was wide open now. Inside was a small, empty room, except for a single rocking chair. On the chair lay a book covered in dust. When he picked it up, he saw his own name written on the first page. Ravi Kumar. Tenant. October. Underneath were other names. Dozens of them. Every page had a name and a date. The last entry was from a year ago. The one before that, 20 years ago. As he flipped through the pages, the air grew colder. The rocking chair began to move on its own. A shadow rose slowly in the corner of the room, taller and darker than anything human. Ravi backed away, his breath coming in gasps. The shadow reached the doorway, stretched its hand toward him, a hand made of nothing but darkness. And the last thing he heard before he screamed was a whisper. "Now you belong here too." The next morning, the house on the hill was silent again. The front door stood open. Inside, the rooms were empty, except for the last one at the end of the hall. The book was still on the chair. A new name had appeared on the final page, written neatly in black ink: Ravi Kumar, permanent.